Hi, April. Good morning, dear.
Good morning. So great to be with you.
I'm so happy to have you, and it's quite early morning for you on the West Coast. Thank you so much for taking out time in so early in the morning. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really excited to be here and have this fun little
Welcome,
conversation with you.
everyone. Yeah, looking forward to. Welcome, everyone, for joining this conversation today. Welcome to episode 37 of Growth Mindset Conversations. And if you can see us live, do add your comments on whichever platform you're watching us. It'll help us know that we are actually live. So do send us comments. Thank you so much, April. And everyone, please join me in welcoming our guest today, April K. Mills. So let me introduce our guest. April K. Mills, an engineer turned evangelist, is an energizing global voice on change agency, change management, and accelerating sustainable results. She's the author of two books, Everyone is a Change Agent and Change Tactics. And she is an internal transformation consultant for Intel Corporation. April is a former civilian nuclear engineer for US Navy and founded Engine-for-Change LLC, and she lives her passion for change in the community too. She is currently building a rural retreat center for families of children with special needs. I'm sure these words may not do that justice to who April is. I have been watching her work, and she is an amazing woman, amazing professional, and doing some awesome work around change. Thank you so much, April, for joining us. It is an absolute pleasure to have you today.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. And as the show is called Growth Mindset Conversations, and my first question to you to start with is what is growth mindset for you, April Mills?
So for me, growth mindset in contrast to the fixed mindset is the difference between seeing life as a series of brick walls that are up
Mm-hmm.
against you and instead seeing life as a series of doors and windows that might be closed at the moment, but you have the opportunity to open. Now, some of them are locked from our side, like we can choose to lean into learning, choose to take an opportunity. Others of these doors and windows are locked from the other side. Someone has to pick us, someone has to select us, but there's still that opportunity that a door or a window represents. And it's being aware of that and potentially knocking on a locked door to see if there's an opportunity on the other side.
Wow. I love the metaphor you use, doors and windows. I'm also curious to ask, we can knock at the wrong door, right?
Yep.
So what
Yep.
happens then? What do you say?
Um, I would say that sometimes, we're knocking at a door we think we want open, and
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't open. And spiritual practice teaches us those are the unanswered prayers that are for our own benefit. But it shouldn't teach us not to knock, not to ask, not to be open to those
Yeah.
opportunities. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the right ones I believe will open, but if you're not knocking and if you're not trying the handle, you're stuck. And why
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
stuck?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is where a lot of self-awareness is required, right? Whether you are at the right door or yeah, so or you are knocking in the right way. I mean,
Yep,
is your knocking sound going to the other side of it? A lot of things, right?
yep,
Wow, I
yep,
loved it.
yep.
Cool. So, relating it to today's topic, which is change tactics for accelerated results. So, April, you started your career as a civilian with U.S. Navy almost 21 years ago, and that is the time September 11 happened, right? A day in I think U.S. and in the world's history, which was not a good day, but yeah, it created a lot of change, I guess. What
For
did you
sure.
learn from that experience with respect to change that still helps you today? And how can we, all of us, and leaders watching this show, leverage on what you learned?
Well, so that day, totally unexpected, was a watershed for confronting At that point, it was 100-year-old plus shipyard that had been running at a steady state pace, and suddenly had to accelerate. And I watched a large organization confront a change they hadn't selected for themselves, but must happen, and saw what succeeded and what failed in terms of getting people motivated to go faster, in terms of changing processes or procedures or systems to go faster. And so I took a lot of learning out of that. It actually really helped inform my understanding as we went into the pandemic a few years ago. Again, not a change that anybody would have selected, that transformed the way we work very quickly. And what I saw in that that's so important for leaders is to understand we don't get to pick our changes oftentimes, but we do get to pick how we respond. And it's so vital that we respond with optimism, with confidence, that we've never done this before, we've done amazing things. And so applying ourselves to this new challenge is something that we can do. And we might stumble, but we'll stumble together. And so that sense of confidence, hope, and camaraderie in the moment is so vital if you want your organization to come through a major change and not be bruised by it and wounded. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I loved what you said, that is a reality that you don't get to pick the change, whether it was September 11 or it was any other changes like pandemic. Pandemic has been I think, great will be a smaller word for it. It has been a change, I think, which will rule our lives for decades to come. So you
Yep.
can't pick your changes, and it all depends on how you respond to that change. Yeah. So
Yep.
I think, yeah, I mean, leaders' response will also decide the response from teams and other stakeholders. So that really connects the subject to the next question. Whenever change happens, April, I have seen, as a coach working with large, small, or medium-sized organizations that people resist change. One. Another one is people don't own change. They always look for, okay, this change is not what I asked for. This change is not what I suggest. So there are different ways. There somebody blames or something or the other happens, so that change is not taken in a positive way most of the times. So my question to you, I mean, how would you look at it? What is the role of a leader in a changing environment or an environment of a change?
I tell people there's a big difference between how you show up as a leader.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the status quo of showing up as a leader is what I call driving people, where we use our
Mm-hmm.
authority, coercion to compel others to change. I'm the boss, I said so, therefore do this or else. There's a better way. When you study
Mm-hmm.
really successful leaders, you don't see them using their position of authority in this compulsive way. Instead, what
Yeah.
you see is what I call driving change, where the leader is choosing the change for themselves and clearing the obstacles for others to choose it too. Now, that doesn't mean the leader isn't saying, we're taking the organization in this direction. We're going to move into this market. We're going to do these things. But what they're saying is, here's the hard work I'm doing in order to make that happen. What do you see as getting in your way of joining me? And being
Yeah.
open to what they share. So it's almost helping them name the resistance, the concern, so that the person feels like you're not ordering me to go somewhere you haven't been. You're already down the road, and I'm letting you know why I can't get there with you. I don't understand it. I actually don't have the tool you think I do to get there. You're seeing a connection I must be missing. Help me put these two things together. I don't see how this decision flows to this value. But you're giving
Yeah.
space for people to share that instead of saying either they obey or they don't, and it's their fault if they don't obey. That crushes those open conversations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And conversation is I think, is a big way that change can be done smoothly. And the other thing
Yep.
which you said, which is like creating that psychological safety, right, at that point of
Yep.
time. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Let
And
people express.
people want to follow role models. I mean, we talk a
Absolutely.
lot about role models in business, role models in sports,
Yeah.
role models in life, but when it comes to many organizational changes, what's missing is a
Yeah.
role model.
Role model. Yeah, yeah. And it has to start somewhere, right? So
Yep.
if you are watching this or listening to this conversation, you can be a role model of change.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
And that was the title of my first book. Everyone is a change agent. You don't have to
Oh,
be
wow.
the senior leader. You don't have to be somebody to do something. You can just
Yeah,
say, it
yeah.
matters to me. I'm going to try, and I'm going to try and clear the obstacles for others to do it with me. So,
Yeah, and for change, I think for navigating change, you don't have to be a senior leader or a CEO or CXO because change happens at every level in today's VUCA, dynamic, whatever language we use. Change is
yep,
happening at every level and consistently, constantly. So you can take
yep,
that opportunity for sure. Yeah, yeah.
yep.
So I mean, what stops leaders actually to navigate the change effectively?
Oh, I think there's a lot in the industry which says you just declare the change and then we'll handle it, right? The project manager, the program manager, the change manager, delegate it to your team to figure it out. And unfortunately, if you're in a driving people environment, all that does is create this pressure layer in the middle where the folks who've gotten this order don't feel like they can share their questions or concerns because that's not being loyal or supportive. That's
Yeah,
resisting. And we've already
yeah,
labeled that a negative. So I can't tell my boss what I really think or tell my boss what my real issues are. The people usually don't understand it. And so you're put in this awful spot and it just festers until it dies oftentimes. That's why there's a lot of arguments about how much change fails in a successful organization where the leader enrolls, they don't have to do all the work, but they have to be part of it. And so if it matters enough to you, it matters enough to pay attention, it matters enough to be supportive, it matters enough to role model, and it matters enough to ask those questions. I'm passionate about it. How are you seeing it? What's in your way? So you can be as passionate as I am. And
yeah.
if leaders would get just a little bit more curious, I think they'd get a lot more return for their investment that they're putting into the change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Asking the right questions. They say, if you ask the right question, you get the right answers.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not about the answers, it's about asking the right questions to yourself, to environment, to other people, to your team. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So, and I mean, I'm also curious because, leaders need to be curious, right? Leader needs to ask
Mm-hmm.
question. So what is one behavior, I'm just thinking, along with you, that what is one behavior leader can change to be curious rather than, to be somebody who resists change. So how can they shift basically? So what is one behavior they should be changing from today so that, they are ready for change?
Yeah. I would say one of the keys is rather than asking for status,
Yeah,
ask for um, what's standing in your way, right?
yeah, yeah,
Celebrate how far they've gotten and say, now what's your next step? And is there
yeah.
anything I can do to help with that?
Mm,
Because
mm,
getting people to, rather than report what's already happened, getting them to
yeah,
report what's coming next is hugely powerful. It's hugely
absolutely.
powerful to
Yeah.
help get them on the right mindset of let's keep moving forward. We're moving forward together. So versus
Yeah,
the bring me your status and I will judge whether or not you made enough progress.
absolutely.
I'm here
Yeah.
with you. What are we going to do together? Where are you going next? Oh, I see this thing I can get out of your way. Let's go do that.
Yeah. And also, I guess, I mean, what you're saying, I really loved it. And you don't have to do it all alone. You can co-create, right? So you're co-creating
Mm-hmm.
with the team. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the question for the day is how can a leader change their own tactics to drive this accelerated result we are talking about?
Well, so I wrote a book on that too. So the initial book was Everyone is a Change Agent. The second book was Change Tactics. And it offers 50 tactics for folks to switch from a driving people type of environment to a driving change. So a lot of the tactics that leaders use, sending the mass email, telling everybody do this or else, not very effective, can be replaced with a simple conversation. You could even do it in email form, but rather than saying, I have declared we're all going to go on this system, it instead says, hey, I've spent, a few hours in this new system, which we've just released, that is really powerful in delivering this business outcome. I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping when you first see it, now at this link, you'll be really excited too. But if you run into any challenges, I've set up a team that's ready to answer any questions, and I'm going to be really involved in this.
Yeah.
Now, really involved might mean checking in with that team, but people want to get involved in that. They're like, oh, the CEO's already down the road on this. Let me go find it. Let me see if I like it as much as he does or she does. Let me let them know what's in the way, because then I'm helping the company. And you would get 6 months worth of learning in a day compared to, we're all moving to this new system. IT will put it on your computer and enforce it or else. Ugh. So, simple stuff.
Simple stuff, I think change starts from you, right?
Yeah.
It starts from really you. Yeah.
And build that momentum.
Please complete that.
Oh, I was just saying, you can build that momentum. I find a lot of leaders who are like, why isn't my company moving faster? Why isn't my org moving faster? And the honest answer is they're moving as fast as you ordered them if you're driving people. And if you want them to move faster, drive change, get out of their way, help them see how fast they can run, and you'll be struggling to keep up. That's what I've seen with organizations.
That's a good way to put it.
Being frustrated how fast they're going to struggling to keep up, which is much better.
Yeah. Which is a much better problem to have in today's environment.
Yes.
Good to have. So, a lot has been changed, as we discussed in this so-called remote or hybrid work environment after pandemic. And I'm sure, April, the way leaders are supposed to handle change, navigate change, something might have changed there also. So, how might leaders change their tactics to drive this accelerated change in this particular new environment, which is still new to everyone, right?
Yeah, well, I think the pandemic really has accelerated this break in terms of this tactic of driving people. When we used to have everybody in the office, you could gather people up, you could, run into them in their office, in their cubicle, and you could really use the compulsion aspect in a much more powerful way. Now, with people remote or hybrid, compelling them is limited to, electronic means. And that's just not as powerful. And I think there's a lot of folks who are running on driving people that have been struggling. I can't make them get in the conference room. I can't make them have their video on. I can't make them, demonstrate this to me in front of me. And without that, they're struggling. And so this is the perfect time for driving change. It always worked better, but one of the subtitle for the book, the Change Tactics book, was going to be what to do when what you've always done stops working. So you use it for that as well. If it's like, I always did this, and now I'm not getting the benefit out of it. Chances are good you can skim through the book and you'll find out, oh, yep, that's the thing I always did. Yep, it's not working, and it provides an alternative. So trying to give everybody my best to help them get unstuck.
Yeah. And when you're talking about your book, how can people grab your book? How can they reach out to you? So what is the way they can have your book?
So it's available on major booksellers, obviously on Amazon. And so just April K, that little K there helps find me from the authors, April K Mills. And the audiobook is also available for Everyone is a Change Agent. So they're available in paperback or audiobook for that one. And then I do a special thing for nonprofits. Is if somebody has a nonprofit and they would like a PDF copy of the book licensed to their nonprofit, because I'm trying to help people make positive change around the world, they can email me at april@engine-for-change.com. So it's engine for change with hyphens.com. And just put book offer in the subject line and let me know what your charity is. And I'll send you a PDF copy of the books so you can use it in your charity.
Wow, awesome, awesome. You are a change agent yourself, April. And please do send me these details. I'll add these into show notes also so that
Great.
people can.
Will do.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we have a question from Neeraj from the audience from Facebook. So he's asking that how can, in today's environment, how can they measure effectiveness of change?
Well, I think you measure the effectiveness typically by, did you get the realization of the outcome? So if we're trying to drive improved sales performance by implementing a new tool, did we get improved sales performance? Too often we measure it by, did we release the new tool? Maybe sometimes we measure how many users are on the new tool, but we rarely measure, did I get the improved sales performance? And so people assume these other measures are easier or they're stepping stones, which they sort of are, but usually we get the tool's been released, we've got users, and then we get distracted and we don't get the sales performance, and it creates scar tissue because people say, you told me you wanted this because of X, we didn't even get X, and I did all of that work. So it's really understanding, what are you going after? And then how can you get that value as easily as possible, which might mean you don't need a new tool. And that's another challenge, is a lot of times people assume the tool will get the value instead of orchestrating the change to get the value. And sometimes that requires a new tool.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope your question is answered. Thank you so much, April. It was really, really wonderful discussion. Thank you for sharing your experience, these knowledge nuggets from your book and from your experience. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you again, everyone. And I look forward to see you in the next episode of Growth Mindset Conversations. Keep reflecting, take action, and keep growing. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.